Guys, I've spent the last week driving the Genesis GV70. This is the fully electric one. They call it the Electrified GV70. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to do much testing. You see, the weather, if you take a look up here at the skies, has just been gray, cloudy, rainy, and tons of hail. So I've attempted to do multiple tests with this car, got it all set up. We're driving, and then we just get smacked in a hailstorm, and the test is invalid. But I still learned a lot about this from our last video, living with this car for the last week or so, and want to give you a wrap up on why I think this is an SUV that you have to consider if you're looking for a luxury SUV. If you're considering a Tesla Model X, a BMW iX, an Audi Q8 e-tron, this needs to be on your list at least as a consideration, and I'm going to tell you why in this video. So this is the new electrified Genesis GV70. If you want to know more about the car itself, take a look at our video we posted, the I Drive It for the First Time, whatever we called it, where we literally drove it for the first time and had our first experience. I promised you many testing videos from there. I promise I've been trying every day, going to the chargers, getting everything right, and then boom, dumped on with rain. Weather's been so unpredictable. Wind has been so unpredictable. I'm going to try one last time today for a 10% challenge. But it has to go back to Genesis today. There's other journalists waiting to review this thing, but I will ask for it back because we need to do a range test. That's the big question mark on this vehicle. So let me walk you through the specs. $74,000, built in the USA, should qualify for the tax credit, I believe. And so that's really cool. It's built in Alabama. Beautiful design, really nice high quality materials throughout. It's not quite at the level like we talked about in our early video of the Germans. It's not Q8 e-tron just after experiencing that car and touching the seats and feeling the build quality and the bank vaultness of that vehicle. It's not quite there, but it's also not priced quite there. I believe the max version of this is where the Q8 e-tron starts, and I believe the iX starts even slightly higher, and that they go up from there. So this is a fully spec'd out $74,000 prestige option. Got to get the prestige. Gives you the sound system, head-up display, a bunch of other stuff. The specs and what I've found about them really interesting. We left the last video off talking about, well, everything feels great, it drives great, it has good driver assistance, but what about the battery pack? You know, it's the 77.4 kilowatt hour battery pack from the Ioniq 5, EV6, GV60, Ioniq 6, and others soon to come. And, you know, some viewers have already purchased this car and have been saying, well, it only charges at a peak of 200 kilowatts. And that was a concern for me. So if you take a look here inside the charging port, you can see AC charging is 11 kilowatts. That works great. DC charging, we originally thought was going to be 200 kilowatts. I couldn't figure out why it would have been nerfed. But actually, thankfully, it's the exact same charging profile and curve as EV6 and Ioniq 5. I plugged this into an Electrify America charging station to do a 10% challenge. In 15 minutes, we went from 10 to 71%. Absolutely ripped the charging curve. And this can really make up for the low expected range of the vehicle. I haven't gotten any good efficiency numbers. My guess is not quite 3 miles per kilowatt hour we're going to get out of this thing. Maybe high 2s on the highway is my gut feeling, because again, it's a combustion car adapted to electric. It's bigger than the Ioniq 5, which that got 3.1 at 70 miles an hour. I bet it's less efficient than that, but who knows? Sometimes these things just come out of nowhere and they are efficient. So that's the range is the big question. But I think even if the range is low, this charging peak speed and the curve of the charging can make up for the low overall total range on that initial full charge. So I'm very much looking forward to getting those numbers for you. I've been trying all week and I'm sorry it hasn't happened. But there's more to talk about than just the raw numbers. The styling, the look. By the way, no one has known that this car is electric. Everyone thinks it's a combustion car. And so I'm like, you know, this has no engine. It actually has a small front trunk. Take a look at our previous video. And everyone's been like, whoa, no way. Didn't know this existed. Like even a large part of our viewers, which I consider to be in market, very well versed in electric vehicles. We have really some of the best, nerdiest, hardcore viewers that are following this EV segment closely. There was a lot of you that were like, I didn't know this existed either. And to be honest, me either. I had heard about it, but then when Genesis was like, oh, we're going to send you one of these, and I forgot Max even made a video with it a few months ago. It's just a car we hadn't been talking about or thinking about. And then it comes in and I drive it for a week and I'm like, this is the car we all need to be talking about. It's so cool. So it looks great, seems to be built really well. We're actually going to go over to the charging station and top it up because I don't like to give cars back to automakers at low state of charge. So we'll charge it up to 80 or 90% for them. We're going to leave it at the airport because we're flying to Electrify Expo in California. So this video is going up the same day we filmed it. If you're going to be in Long Beach this weekend, what is it, May 8th, 9th, 20th? Do you know, Alyssa?
Today's the 19th.
19th. If you're going to be in, where are we going?
Weekend.
Yeah, Electrify Expo, Long Beach.
Long Beach.
Saturday and Sunday, 2023 Convention Center.
Right.
We'll be there.
We know what day and year it is.
Everyone knows how bad I am with scheduling now. This is why I'm late to everything. Okay, let's jump inside, go for a cruise over. I want to talk some drivetrain stuff. And then with this dude doing all the trash things out here, let's go inside. We are in, we are ready to rock and roll. We've already told you a little bit about how it drives, how it feels, all that stuff, but I at least want to share my experience. I've put, I don't know, 400 miles on this thing this week, just trying to set it up for tests mostly. And that includes a trip to California. I think actually 2 trips to California in the week that I've had this, but the weather's just been so against us. What I've done here actually is I've programmed in the Electrify America charging station. This, by the way, these 2 knobs, you would think you'd get used to which one you need to twist. I mentioned that this could be an issue in our first drive where, oh, I want to go into drive or reverse and you pull this knob instead of this knob. That's gotten me all week. I keep getting confused.
It's gotten me too. But thankfully I've been doing this knob and not the reverse to where I would be in neutral while I'm driving.
Take a look here. It says we can't open the maps because it's rerouting. This navigation system sucks. Truly sucks. You just have to use CarPlay in this vehicle. The problem with using CarPlay is you can't program in the charging station to precondition the battery. And if you can zoom in on this little tiny battery icon in the bottom left-hand corner here, that's indicating that because I've programmed a high-powered DC fast charging station, the battery's preconditioning. What it's doing is getting, running the battery heater until the coldest portion of the battery, the coldest cell, is at 21 degrees Celsius. And then, that's just when it can start accepting big power. So now it's recalculating. We can open this nav. Every time you put in a navigation, it can't figure out where to go because it's like connected routing service just doesn't work. And so it has to go through this 1 or 2 minute long timeout process before it says, oh, actually, just use the onboard routing. It's really frustrating. And the only reason I use the built-in nav is just to select the charging station for preconditioning. And it's so needed on this battery pack. It's so thermally sensitive to get the fast charging speeds. You do need it to precondition. The other downside is where I typically run my 10% challenges out of the EV Go station in Thornton, Colorado. The car doesn't know that station exists. It's just not in here. And so I can't actually even precondition the car to that charger. And it's just like a convoluted, terrible system. I'm sorry, but this is not how to do navigation. And it really needs to be way better. Okay, so now the preconditioning icon has gone away. I don't know why. Maybe when it refines another route, it'll kick it back on. So annoying. So, okay, so obviously you can see there's some issues with the car, and most of them involve this user interface. This is a system that I actually recommend you get all the settings set up first, and there's a lot of settings which I enjoy, and it's great to personalize the car, but then you just throw CarPlay on here and you're good. And really, unless you're going on a trip charger to charger in the winter time where you constantly need it to precondition, then just don't even use the nav system here. So that's my impression. The some other things about the Genesis GV70 is honestly the perception of people that we've put in this car. It's been one of those interesting things, and actually Genesis as a brand has been an interesting thing for me to follow because Kia and Hyundai started out with a pretty poor reputation in America, and now they're building some of the best products on the planet, and now they of course have their luxury brand Genesis, which is taking the best, I would say, drivetrain, powertrain engineering from those guys and stuffing it with a relatively nice cabin. Now, again, we mentioned some of the materials, the overall, feeling of things the intangibles is not on the level of a Q8 e-tron or an iX, just noise performance and some other things. You know, an iX is much more bank vault like than this vehicle, but it feels nicer than a Model X, and it feels tighter than a Model X as well, like better built. The thing is, the Model X is a much bigger vehicle than this. It's a 3-row. This really is in the size category of Model Y, but is much more luxurious, or much more premium might be the better word, than a Model Y. So, okay, let's talk, because I want to make this super quick. The driving is very quiet, very comfortable, no complaints here, no air suspension. So again, it's not quite up to the top spec level, but to take a combustion car and to make it so well integrated from a drivetrain and battery perspective, one of the best charging electric cars in the market, and throw it in here, make it look normal, don't make it look weird EV, give you massaging seats. Take a look at all these options I can choose from. I'm going for the whole body massage right now. And, you know, it just looks less awkward than the Genesis GV60. I would for sure, if you park a Genesis GV60 and the GV70 next to each other, I'd go GV70 all day long. I even told my mom she's thinking about getting a Model Y, and it's on order, and she's waiting for her VADE and all this stuff. And you can follow their progress on the Out of Spec Dave YouTube channel. It's been really fun watching my dad do YouTube videos. And I was like, Mom, just before you get your Model Y, I know this is quite a bit more expensive, but just go check one out. She was not interested. She wants the Tesla supercharging network, and that is the downside of any other electric vehicle than a Tesla, is charging it. Now, when you do find a charger that is working and you feel confident that you can go there and use it on a trip, and you know, maybe you have to wait in a line or unplug and plug in. I'm not going to make a argument saying charging is necessarily the easiest thing out there for non-Tesla, but once you get it right and you find a charger that can deliver the power, well, we're on our way, and I'm going to show you, and this thing will just zap up the juice real fast. So really impressive charging performance. Again, identical to EV6 Ioniq 5, but now in quite a luxurious, larger package. And I think, you know, living with this for a week, my personal impressions are it's one of those cars that it would be the perfect daily driver or commuter. For me, it's not my kind of car. There's nothing about this car that like begs me to get back in and drive it and enjoy it. This is like a way to get from A to B, and like once I'm in the car, there's really not much that annoys me. You have the typical Hyundai Kia stuff when you change your drive modes or your regen modes, your pedal mapping changes in real time. So if I keep my foot in the same position and hit the boost function, it's like, whoa, instantly unlocking a lot of power. And then when it comes out of boost, you fall on your face because that same pedal position is now targeting regen. Like, I think they could work out a lot of these pedal mapping things, but that truly is, I think, my only complaint to come down to drivetrain, powertrain, and even chassis tuning. The suspension is set up perfectly considering it's only an active damper. The dual 160 kilowatt power output's really great. The front axle disconnect works well, although I drive the car most of the time in I-pedal, one pedal driving, which keeps the front axle connected all the time. And this, truly, I cannot drive this point home enough. If you're in the market for a mid-size premium SUV that's electric, which is a lot of people, we're not talking ID4 versus Bolt versus Model Y versus Mustang Mach-E. We're saying if you want something nicer than that category, you're into this e-tron iX. Trying to think what else would really classify in this category. Maybe Lexus RZ 450e. We got to test that soon. When you're into this category, on paper, this is going to be a tough sell because you're not going to be able to feel the quietness and the ride quality and the materials, which are okay but not amazing, by reading a brochure. What you're going to see is the range figure is going to say, I don't know what the actual EPA range is, but 190 to 210, somewhere around there, just like around 200 miles. And that's going to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to do that when e-tron is almost 300 miles, and we know BMW iX can go 340 miles on the highway, considering that's not even, that was the least efficient iX. That was the M60 with the big wheels. And I would say for most people looking in this category, that's probably a real consideration is range. An iX is going to win that all day long compared to, EQE SUV that's going to be launching and all this stuff. Where this car comes into play is actually, I think, for our audience, for you guys. Because a lot of you are familiar with EV charging infrastructure. You enjoy charging, as do I. And it's fun to like have a car that can charge really fast to maximize the charging capabilities of the station, the car, and to really push the limits. And that's where this car wins. That's why I love the Ioniq 5 and EV6 so much, because the charging performance is so good. It makes up for the lack of efficiency and lack of range on the vehicle. I also like the idea that it doesn't have a massive battery, because why do you need to haul around a massive battery that you're not going to use much? You know, 77 kilowatt hours isn't small, but it's certainly not the 100+ kilowatt hours that are, you know, 114 that's in the Q8 e-tron gross capacity. So my recommendation is for our viewers, like, seriously consider this and think about how well it charges. Also balance your usage with the charging networks. Is it going to get you where you need to go? Because this will have enough range for daily driving. And just the way that the driver assistance systems integrate, the way that it feels and is so premium, and it's sort of this cool unknown car that no one really knows what it is. I'm really into this thing. So it's a high recommend from me. Let's go to the charging station. We'll top it up. I'll show you what that's all about. And then unfortunately, I don't think I'll have many test videos for you this week. Maybe after this, if the rain decides to hold off, we can squeeze in a 10% challenge. I'm not going to promise anything, but keep an eye out for future videos. All right, let's go charge this thing up. All right, now I'm going to show you the key point of this vehicle for you guys. So some people might like this, like my mother. She'd like the massaging seats and the materials and the white steering wheel. She loves that. I think it'll get disgusting over time. Some people might like that it doesn't look like an electric car. It's just a nice, normal car to drive. I like how fast it charges. That's what I want to demonstrate to you here. So I'm going to pull these stupid little cap covers off. I would rip those off instantly if it was my car. We'll take the charging plug, although commonly referred to as the charging gun.
What?
Yeah, actually it is. In like technical specifications, this is a charging gun.
In like Texas?
Yeah, yeah, maybe. Okay, so we'll go to Loveland. And we'll go to number 4, and no plug-in charge, which is a shame. There's no excuse for that. That's 2023. You need built-in route planning, you need plug-in charge, and you need to tell me how long I have to wait here to charge to make it to the next charger. This car doesn't really do any of that. Its route planning is terrible. It's just like, I don't know what they're doing with their navigation software, but it's so bad. It almost, like, BMW is pretty good, Audi's okay, but like this is terrible. Tesla has that nailed. Okay, welcome driver. Normally it says Kyle. Session pricing cannot currently be displayed. Details will be updated in member account when available.
Charging started.
Charging started. So it just has no idea I activated it, even though I activated it. Let's not go on another tangent about how annoying this charging network can be. 53 kilowatts, 69 kilowatts, 84. Come on, baby. 97. 110, 125, 140, 155. We're past early e-trons. We're past new e-trons. We're getting close to new iX. Right up there around new iX right now. And what it'll do is, because it only preconditions to like a certain level of temperature, it takes a couple seconds for it to accept full power. So we're going to give it a couple minutes here. It's just sitting at 195 kilowatts or so. Once it comes up the next temperature ledge, we'll see another big spike, and it'll just sit at 240 kilowatts. The peak I've seen so far this week is 243. Pretty epic for sure. So give it a couple minutes to heat up. It's just sitting at 200 kilowatts right now, and that's why you get this car, because the curve is amazing. And yeah, it should ramp up here any minute. Well, we've just ramped up on the temperature, and we're up to 230 kilowatts and slightly climbing. So just like the way this charging curve works is very temperature based and in ledges. Now 235 down to 230. It just kind of moves around a little bit, but just love to see that almost 240 kilowatt charging. Again, the peak that I've seen is 243, at least in my testing so far. We probably could even get that a little bit higher if we get everything optimized. But this is great. I'm actually warming up the battery here. So if we are able to get a 10% challenge in, at least we'll have a nice toasty battery for it, which is what we need to get the fastest charging peak speed in that 15-minute window. So anyway, I leave you now with this thought, which is our coverage on the Genesis GV70, I know, hasn't been the most informative. It hasn't been the most technical, and I really wish I was able to bring you more of our traditional testing coverage. I have the BZ4X next week, so stay tuned for that one. I'm really looking forward to doing a lot with that vehicle, of course. But it's a car that no one's talking about that we all should, because this charging performance is amazing. In 5 minutes, we're already up almost to 50% state of charge from 20. So 20 to 42 in 5 minutes. And that's not even with the pack totally warmed up to get the maximum charging speed. So I'm just loving the charging performance, loving the deep charging curve. And it's a really nice car. It looks great. It's priced right compared to its segment. And it's what Genesis kind of stands for. It's like entry-level luxury, but like nicer than Lexus stuff, and way nicer than Infiniti stuff. So really love this car. Can't recommend it enough, especially if you can get the tax credit. If one of you knows, let me know, because final assembly is in the US. The battery pack may not be, so I just don't know tax credit-wise how that will work out. But yeah, there you go. This is... it's just awesome. I need to drive the G80, their electric sedan now, because that's a car no one else is talking about either. Genesis, I think, needs to do maybe a little bit better job with targeting EV drivers to learn about their stuff. But at least you learned about it in this video. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in another one soon. Bye-bye.